Welcome to your next graphing lines training video. This video is all about slope. In the last video we defined slope as the rate of vertical change, or the change in y, compared to the horizontal change, or the change in x, and that rate can be written as a fraction. So let's go look at a graph and find that slope, that fraction. So let's start with the change in y. From one point to the next, this line went up 4, so that's a positive number. Okay, let's look at the change in x. 6 to the right, so that is positive 6. So my slope, if I put it all together, is the change, whoops, don't look at that, it's a formula, surprise! The change in y over the change in x. And of course this is a fraction, so we can simplify it by dividing by 2, top and bottom. We get our slope is 2/3. If we had gone the other direction, if we had gone down from 4/3, that'd be down, so it'd be negative value. And then to the left, again the negative direction, 6, to get to -2, -1. If we simplify that, we get the same number because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So it doesn't matter the direction that you go. But of course, I don't always want to draw it out and make the graph and count all the spaces, especially if there's fractions. And so we have a handy-dandy formula where you subtract the y values, that gives you the change in y, and you subtract the x values, giving you the change in x, and divide them to get the rate. Now some of you might have learned this with the 2's first. We just find it's easier for most students to understand if the 1's comes first, but they can do it either way. Like we showed in the last example, 2/3, we got it either way, either direction that we went. The 1's, the subscripts 1's, refer to the point that we're looking at. So the first point is x sub 1 and y sub 1, and our second point has 2's to show the second point. Some students might confuse those for exponents, so be careful of those. Let's go ahead and try out this formula with this problem. We're going to find the slope between the 2 points 4, 1 and 7, 11. So let's go ahead and mark those. This is going to be x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So our y1 is 1, our y2 is 11, x1 is 4, x2 is 7. Let's go and subtract those. We get -10 over -3. And the negative divided by negative will be positive 10/3. If we'd gone the other way, we'd still get positive 10/3 as our slope. One thing to be careful of, a lot of students will put the x values on top and subtract those. That's not good. Here's how I help them remember. You might not want to use this analogy, but I like it. I want you to think about wise as in smart, right? It is wise to be over your x's, right? Here, put this below us, behind us. All right, let's look at ways we can use slope. So if we know the slope about a line, then we can tell a lot about it just from the slope. So looking at an increasing line, that means it's going up and to the right, increasing. So up and to the right are both positive, so our slope would be a positive divided by positive, which is positive. So slope of an increasing line is always greater than 0. Decreasing line is opposite, it goes down, so a negative, and then to the right, positive, which gives us a negative slope. The slope of a decreasing line is always less than 0 or negative. Let's look next at horizontal and vertical lines. So a horizontal line is increasing from left to right, but its change in y is nothing. It's not going up or down. And so we have 0 divided by some number. I'm just going to call it k, right? And so 0 divided by k is always going to be 0. So the slope of any horizontal line is 0. Vertical lines are the opposite. They're increasing, they're changing vertically, but they are not changing horizontally. So they have some number change, maybe it's like 5 over 0, oh no, undefined. The slope of any vertical line is undefined. Okay, a lot of students will get 0 and undefined confused. I picked these letters on purpose. 0 divided by k, that is okay. That's how I remember it. K divided by 0, oh no, knockout. Undefined. Too bad. It's undefined. Okay. Also, you want to be careful of using the words no slope. That can be interpreted as 0 or undefined, and they are very different. Be careful not to use those two words. It can be confusing for students. You can also learn about how lines interact if you know the slopes. So if we're comparing two lines, let's say we're comparing parallel lines. Make some room here. Parallel lines never touch. They have the same slope in order for that to be true. Right? They have to be inclined in the same direction. So if we have two lines that are parallel, they have the same slope, and vice versa. If two lines are of the same slope, then we know that they're parallel. Perpendicular lines intersect always at a 90-degree angle, right? A right angle right there. These slopes are completely opposite in every way. So let's say the slope of one is 3/5. Then its perpendicular slope, you'll see this symbol to mean perpendicular, is the reciprocal, so flipped over, and also a different sign. So one was positive, the other one's going to be negative. So these slopes for perpendicular lines are opposite signs and are reciprocals of each other. Any other two slopes that don't fall in these two categories, they're not the same, they're also not opposite reciprocal. Those are just intersecting lines. They're not going to meet at a 90-degree angle, and they're also not parallel. They just intersect at some other angle. Alright, that's all about slope. Go ahead and watch the next video about writing linear equations.